It was a bright, sunny afternoon in Los Angeles, the kind of day that makes you want to slow down and soak in the Californian vibe. Barron Trump, now in his late teens and standing out with his impressive height and calm demeanor, decided to enjoy the day by treating himself to lunch. He chose Los Angeles Terrace, a high-end restaurant tucked in one of the trendiest neighborhoods of Oleo, known for its exclusivity and elegance. The restaurant often hosted celebrities, influencers, and CEOs. Barron had been there a few times before, always enjoying the serene ambiance and impeccable service. But today, something was different. As he walked through the glass doors, heads turned, not just because of his tall frame or recognizable face, but because of the bright red MAGA hat perched on his head. Barron wasn't wearing it to make a statement. To him, it was just a hat, a symbol of his family and values. He wore it the same way someone else might wear a favorite sports team cap, casually and without much thought. The hostess greeted him with a polite smile and led him to a corner table by the window. Barron thanked her and took his seat, opening the menu to scan for his usual order. The restaurant wasn't crowded. A few diners sipped wine and exchanged quiet conversations. At first, Barron didn't notice the attention. A couple at a nearby table exchanged whispers. A waiter behind the bar glanced over nervously. The atmosphere shifted when the manager emerged from the back. The manager, a sharp-dressed man in his mid-40s with a no-nonsense demeanor, walked briskly to Barron's table. His steps were purposeful, his face tight with determination. "Excuse me," he said, loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "We have a policy against political apparel here. I'll have to ask you to remove the hat." Barron looked up, surprised but calm. "I wasn't aware of such a policy," he said, setting his earbuds on the table. His voice was steady, respectful, but firm. "It's in our code of conduct," the manager replied, gesturing vaguely toward the entrance. "We aim to maintain a neutral space for all our guests." Barron glanced around. Some diners avoided his gaze, pretending not to listen, while others openly stared. "I'm not here to cause trouble," he said evenly. "I'm just here for lunch." The manager's tone grew sharper. "If you don't remove the hat, I'll have to ask you to leave." Barron sighed, stood up and said, "If that's how you feel, I'll leave." He picked up his belongings, his unfinished glass of water still on the table, and walked out of the restaurant. Without another word, the door closed softly behind him, leaving the room in an awkward silence. Outside, Barron paused, adjusting his hat under the warm California sun. He wasn't angry, more disappointed. As he stood there, a mother and her 2 children approached. "We saw what happened," she said, her voice hesitant but supportive. "That wasn't right." The family asked for a selfie, which Barron obliged with a polite smile. By the time Barron returned home, the incident had already made waves online. Someone at the restaurant had taken a blurry photo of the confrontation, and it had gone viral within hours. Social media erupted with debates. Some posts were supportive. Freedom of expression should be respected. Others were critical. He knew what he was doing with that hat. Meanwhile, the atmosphere at Oleo Terrace was tense. The restaurant's Instagram page was flooded with comments, many criticizing the manager's decision. Reservations were being canceled. One particularly scathing review read, "If you can't respect your guests, you don't deserve their business." At home, Barron sat at his desk, scrolling through the reactions. He wasn't looking for sympathy, but the sheer volume of attention was overwhelming. Then, an idea began to form. If this moment was sparking so much conversation, why not turn it into something meaningful? The next morning, the quiet street outside LA Terrace was transformed. Trucks unloaded tables, banners, and a small stage. Barron had organized a charity event titled "Building Bridges, a Day for Unity." The goal was to raise funds for underprivileged youth and foster dialogue between divided communities. By noon, the event was in full swing. Food trucks lined the street, live music filled the air, and families gathered to support the cause. Barron, dressed simply but confidently, took the stage to address the crowd. "Yesterday, I was asked to leave this restaurant because of a hat," he began. "That's okay. I respect their policies, even if I don't agree with them. But what struck me wasn't just being turned away, it was the bigger picture. We're so quick to judge each other, to take sides. That's not who we are. We can do better." The crowd erupted in applause. Donations poured in, and by the end of the day, they had raised over $200,000. Barron spent hours shaking hands, listening to stories, and thanking attendees personally. Inside El Terrace, the manager watched from the window. He hadn't expected Barron to respond in this way, and it left him conflicted. Finally, after some encouragement from his staff, he stepped outside. Approaching Barron, he extended a hand. "I made a mistake," he said quietly. "I'd like to make it right." Barron shook his hand and replied, "We all make mistakes. What matters is how we grow from them." The manager nodded, a hint of relief washing over his face. "Thank you for understanding," he said quietly. "I'll make sure this place becomes a space where everyone feels welcome." As Barron turned back to the crowd, the energy in the room shifted. People clapped, not just for him, but for the idea that something positive could come out of such a divisive moment. It was a reminder that change, though difficult, was always possible. Later that evening, Barron found himself sitting on the steps outside the restaurant. The sun had set, and the glow of the streetlights reflected off the pavement. He stared at his phone, scrolling through the overwhelming messages of support. From strangers, friends, and even a few unexpected figures, public personalities who applauded his grace and poise in handling the situation. As he read one particular message, a smile crept across his face. It was from a young boy who wrote, "Thank you, Barron. You showed me how to stand up for myself without being mean. You're my hero." He looked up at the sky, the cool breeze brushing against his face. In that moment, he realized that this incident, though uncomfortable, had been an opportunity, a chance to inspire, connect, and lead by example. Weeks later, the restaurant held its first charity dinner, inspired by Barron's actions. It became an annual event, with proceeds going to causes that promoted dialogue and inclusivity. Barron was invited as the guest of honor, not for his fame, but for the ripple effect he had created with a single thoughtful response. As the years passed, the incident became a story people told to remind themselves of the power of kindness. It wasn't just about a hat or a restaurant. It was about understanding, listening, and finding unity in a divided world. Thank you for tuning in to today's story. If you enjoyed it, consider subscribing to stay updated on more captivating narratives. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and join the conversation. Don't forget to share this video with someone who'd appreciate it. See you in the next one.